Go Litter, right? So I gotta go with Padabol, right? Like he has to do well, because if not, then it's starting to look kind of dire in terms of my predictions. But first castle of the day here, first castle for the two of us, really, that we've been on the desk so far. But Cloak being left over, is that reminiscent of your own games right now, or what's the status there?
Well, when I was a skill score enforcer, not so much, because Cloak is a very relevant component in skill score for Olaf and for Ionic Spark and Runans, etc. But overall, maybe not the most interesting option, although it does build into great items like Runans, like I mentioned, Bloodthirster as well, with all the different Whispers and Jade comps going forward. But I think things like Sword, Belt, Bow are always going to be the more attractive options to start things off, because they are so versatile.
I really like Chain now that Titan's Resolve is an item again, right?
Okay.
Because Shio is back in the meta. Not that Titan's wasn't an item. That's not what I'm saying. It was pretty good in Whispers and stuff like that, right? But I just really do enjoy just starting Chain West, because you have so many good items from it.
Seeing the double Skarner pick up. Astral, of course, did change a little bit, but still a very relevant early game trait to have in stage 2, especially if you get to those 2 stars early on, where now maybe you get more golden units. If you have the 2 stars anyway, then you're good to go. Pirate's Greed will be the Mirage for this game. Definitely still a great way if you get a Leona and a Yone playing for Econ outside of Astral and Lagoon. That's a different way to do it, but definitely a viable one when this is the Mirage.
Also, it's going to be Nomsy, it's going to be Evoker here as well, right? So that means that we might see some players angling for it. Again, the big thing about Evoker Nomsy is that you can pretty much just stack triple damage item on her. She doesn't need the mana gain, so that's something to look out for. Also,
but thankfully, it won't be kind of the 3 or 4 players going for that Nomsy mage. I never liked this in TFT, when kind of you feel like you're forced to go a certain route because of how strong something is, which is maybe the case with that Nomsy mage right now. And last patch, and still in this patch as well. So I like this, that it's Evoker. It's somewhere in the middle.
Potable setup here is pretty good. It's not going to hold the angle of Lagoon open instead. Okay, preparation, electro charge. Its own protection is obviously way too off base here, but I do. Okay, that's decision to be made here.
Gonna be Prep. Prep is an augment that can be very good, but does require a lot of extra thought and a lot of extra, well, I guess, prep when it comes to deciding how you're going to play out this stage 2, this stage 3. You have to be thinking ahead on how you're going to get the prep stacks. Is it going to be a PvE round? Or are you going to play a weak board in stage 2, lose streak on purpose, and then throw in your all-stars in stage 3? There's many different ways to kind of play out this augment, Wida. Do you feel overall it can be very strong in the right hands?
I think it's probably one of my favorite augments in the game right now.
Really?
It's down. I think if you compare preparation to like Stand United, right? Like preparation is just superior in pretty much in every single fashion, right? Like it does take time. It is a commitment. It's not as flexible as Stand United. That's not what I'm saying. But it does give you like better stats, I'd say, overall here. We have a bit of Aegis action here going on. Magaki and Potable both in the lobby, obviously part of the French setup over at Team Aegis. Just a little thing to highlight here as well. Has the Clouded Mind, but has gone with a bit of an interesting strategy here, making a stronger board, so he's not going to be loose streaking instead. Right, I think this is going to be something we need to look out for here. He's going to be skipping that first turn, but should just be able to fill out the bench shortly.
And Chuso is joining the cult of the Dragonmancers. We saw it have a lot of success yesterday. Middling success today until now. I think yesterday we saw, as you mentioned on that analyst desk, the perfect combination for a Dragonmancer game right now, with Lee Sin maybe being the most viable option alongside something like an Aoshin in the late game. And just everything worked out. Perfect items, perfect, Eye of the Storm, third augment. It's not something you can guarantee. It's something that you're going to have to hope for. We do see a glove already on Chuso's item bench, so that's going to be a good start. Hopefully, he's going to have a chance to have maybe, I guess not. If he's going to be winning out here, not going to have priority on carousels, that might be a problem, because you're going to be at the mercy of the PP rounds.
I mean, the thing is, that's worth noting, right, is that there's pretty much always going to be a glove left open. You need 2 gloves to play the composition.
Mm-hmm.
And like Dragonmancer Malphite was something that was actually like nerfed on PvE for a short time.
Really?
Yeah, it actually was pretty interesting for a short moment in time. Still a pretty decent holder, because again, Malphite's shield scales with his HP, and it also scales off of AP, right? So he gets both of those verticals from that Dragonmancer trait by being the chosen one, which is just a kind of nice double setup here. So I expect Chuso to be pretty strong in the early game setup here for sure. Another thing that's worth noting as well, Psycho, French player that we saw perform incredibly well at the World Championship stage previously. I believe that was in Fates, where he finished second at the World Championship, if I recall correctly. So same set that Potable went to Worlds as well.
We saw Kevin Parker just got a Jax 2-star on 2-3. Jax, of course, shades of Shen in set 7. It was just one of the more sleeper OP units because of how strong the ability is of just being able to dodge auto attacks in the early game, especially. And that's gonna be the case. Jax 2, one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, we did one of the strongest upgrades to have in stage 2. Is just so relevant. Maybe not as a full-on carry defensively or offensively, but as a good utility unit.
He's just strong, right? Like, again, he can just stall fights forever because, again, he has to build in CC on top of everything as well. And his traits are just useful as well. Like, again, you have a pretty good unit to if you want to include Shimmer Scale. Jade's also pretty okay. And it just buys a lot of time for this Kai'Sa to do a lot of work here with that Oasis triggering as well. So, like, what is your take on Oasis? Because I'm not the best at Lagoon openness, despite like pretty much everyone that I speak to, like, are just like incredible at Lagoon. I've just never really fully clicked with it. I feel like Oasis is a pretty weird augment to me.
Can only be first pick, really, realistically. Anything past that is just not going to be as useful. And if you have kind of the perfect setup already, if you're already deep into Lagoon, if it kind of synergizes perfectly with your board, it's pickable. But I think it's definitely not an auto pick. Like when you're playing a certain comp, if you have the augment for that comp, it's auto pick. It's like this is my direction. I'm going into this. Obviously an augment that benefits this comp is going to be very good. With Oasis, not so much the case. I think it's more situational. So it's not a bad pick, but you have to be a good player. You have to have experience with Lagoon to really know in what spots it's actually going to be useful.
We also see Kevin Parker prioritizing the tier off of the Chaos. Is going to be a blue buff. And as we saw in the top right corner start here, Pirates are going to be Mirage of choice this game. And I spoke about Pirates before, spoke about it yesterday. It's just that, like, that average 2 gold every round for just having 2 units into the board that you probably would play regardless, right? Both Yone and Leona are 2 pretty strong early game units in their own right. You kind of see like how Spody is playing this out. It's just like slammed items, doesn't really care much about components, right? It has a TG, Root Ends Hurricane. It's just playing for like a strong top 4 position already, and just trying to play from that.
Mm-hmm. Lovely spot. I would love to be in the spot that Spotty's currently in right now, in this 2-5. You have a very strong board. It's so strong, you're fine slotting in Mirage, getting that extra econ trait because you know you're going to be winning out anyway. You have a strong front line, upgraded units, a strong backline damage carrier. Ezreal, I think one of the strongest, most consistent damage carriers in stage 2. Itemize as well the Runons. You have the extra luck from the TG slam that is going to be a locket. But you are facing off against Magarki, who is also very, very strong with his set. So unfortunately, going to be a loss. Win streak will come to an end here for Spotty. Can't take it all the way to Krugs.
Yeah, so no full streakers here as well. Like, that is going to be pretty important, right? It changes the economic scape of the game. Also, another thing that's worth noting here, Magarki's item set that we saw on screen just prior to this fight, BT plus Titans Resolve, right? Those are like very good items. And now with the fact that Xiaoyu is flexible as a carry as well, which she wasn't for like the start of the set, means you can now slam Titans plus BT and you will have multiple verticals to play for, right? Because that was like kind of like what I was really utilizing towards the back end of 7.0 as I was climbing towards the Grandmaster ranks, right? Was the fact that I would just slam BT Titans early on, and then I would play either Xiaoyu or Siphon when that happens. And now you play both in the same comp, which means that your item set is just very versatile.
Yeah, it was really, I feel you. I mean, at the start of this set, last few patches, you could build AD, but mostly into range carries, like Xayah, for example. It was hard to build for melee carries, and it really did hinder slamming those items early on. Now it's not the case. Now, as I mentioned before on top of show, you have so many options. You have the chance to build these items and still find a viable tree for these items in the late game. And now that's the case now with Siphon and Xiaoyu finding, I think the spotlight they deserve as dragons in this set. Spotty is doing things with
emote spam. Do love this emote spam. Okay, well, that's a no to pair, and to disappoint Morgan, I think these are going to be skipped again. The item setup doesn't really scream I'm going to play Evoke Arms here, right?
Sejuani 3 though, is that the angle, Guido? Is this a dream?
That was like a really fun comp that also ended up getting nerfed. But like you had like 8 Dragonmans to Sejuani 2.
Oh yeah, I know this.
Everything. That was definitely a moment in time that happened on the PBE. But
we saw Malphite 3 yesterday. Makes was surprised to see this, so maybe now we can surprise Makes once again with a possible Sejuani 3 angle.
I mean, again, it hasn't cost him anything, right? I think that's the big thing to note as well. And Sejuani 3, right? If you are already going for like a guild angle, regardless, just a very easy slotting. Get that extra HP. Get the CC that she provides. On top of everything as well here. I'm interested to see whether or not they're going to commit to a level 6 here. They are indeed. He is going to just be like, okay, no, cool, I'm not going to care. Like, and to me, it's interesting, right? Because this to me says that he thinks he's strong enough to streak the stage. because like he's still 20 gold, which is not horrible, but it didn't really upgrade anything specifically. And then you look at Chuso's board. I was talking about how he's in a pretty good spot. He has Kaiser 2 now with the Jewel Gauntlet as another glove on the bench as well here. He's just going to be holding out and playing a waiting game for that Lee Sin to show up.
I know the Dragonmancer can be a bit awkward in the early game. Obviously, you're not going to be playing just 4 Dragonmancers is a bit weak. You're not really, fulfilling much. So going to Lagoon first, building for that Econ, building for, getting those Lagoon stacks first, and then transitioning to Dragonmaster after the fact, I think it's going to be a great strategy for Chuso here. And as you mentioned, Kai's going to be a pretty good item holder for this JG, the IE potentially, until Lee Sin comes online, until he's able to find at least a Lee Sin 2 to transfer the items, and then hopefully a Lee Sin 3 somewhere in stage 5.
And it's like it's been a case with Kaiser Flag inside of that. Have been some people trying to like carry freestar Kaiser. I've seen it with very mixed results. I don't think that's where Chuso is going to go right now. But Kaiser just ended up turning into one of those like premier item holders. Right, like she's just been like really good at like holding for Soam, even holding AD items, can hold for Lee Sin in the situation as well. I mean, it has to be tiny items, right? Like,
it's not a recombobulator, that's for sure. This set, this augment has not been feeling too hot, especially not when you're playing kind of 4 Dragonmancers. You have a setup that's definitely a hit. Going to be helping Lee Sin get even more damage, trying to get that one kick man online for the late game.
Yeah, so like again. It's also kind of down to like a more of a philosophical way of viewing the game, right? Because a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm in a tournament right now. Is an item really going to give me that extra 30 HP that I'm going to get for a Tiny Titans, for example, right? Well, like, again, like, and we saw that a lot back when we could still get Tiny Titans as the final augment of the game, where like if it was there, you just picked it no matter if it fit your combo, right? Like,
I have to ask you, Guido, are you trying to sneakily get in Harry Potter references in this cast? You mentioned the Chosen One. You mentioned now the Philosopher's Stone vibe there. I'm on to you, Guido. I know this is the little mini game you're playing, it seems like at the very least.
No, my Chosen One is Jose Mourinho. I guess you can vibe with that as a Real Madrid fan now.
I definitely can, but I can definitely vibe with this.
Keeping the old classical vibes, right? Okay, random component, gets the sword. That's an IEJG setup right there for Chuso. You gotta be very happy with this.
Almost 90 stacks. This is perfectly. You're not going fully into Dragonmancer yet, but you are very healthy. You have the 2 items that you need to have to make Lee Sin work. We saw it in game 1. There was a Dragonmancer game. You had the Volibear carry instead because you weren't able to find the items for Lee Sin. This is the reason why Volibear was carried instead, and it's less than optimal. So having this working out for you until now has to feel good. When you pick a direction and you lock yourself into a very specific comp, if you don't find the items for it, if you don't find the ways to really have that comp come online, it feels so frustrating. It feels really bad as a player. So happy that Chuso is able to find those items.
Yeah, and Kevin Parker has been streaking here, so has Megaki, right? Megaki is kind of to be expected with the approach he took with the clutter in mind and just the general setup here. And with using Spody now, he's going to be going over towards a Sippy line, which you can see on the bench right now with the Pandoras. He does have a Namsi on the bench just waiting to be rerolled. And again, this was touched on yesterday as well, but in the tier 3 dragon slot, there are only going to be 2 units, so it's a 50-50 whether or not you're going to hit it. And that does mean that Sippy 3 might be a lot likely, and Sippy 3 is a pretty strong unit right now.
Lagoon openers looking like the Astral openers of the last patch in this game at the very least. Kevin Parker also making perfect use of this Lagoon opener, fully itemizing the Kai'Sa, as you mentioned, one of the most satisfying item carriers that just seems to just work out. I think similarly to Ezreal in the 1 cost, that you can just itemize it and know it's going to do work. It's going to get things done in stages 2 and 3 at least. Stage 4, obviously they fall off a cliff. You have to start transitioning.
Saya with a sword. I mean, I guess Saya is not as strong as she was, right? Like this, she has taken a few nerfs first to a base AD and then to her Feather AD, right? But even then, that's still a 4-cost sword on Carousel. You're going to take that every day of the week if you are going to be looking for it. But Pot of Bowl seems to have an open sword already. So interesting to see where he's going to be going with this, to be completely honest here.
Seeing with Chuso here now, can possibly look at this tier to build a Hodge. I think Hodge and BT are both definitely okay and almost interchangeable as a 3rd item for Lee Sin. I don't know if you have maybe more experience than me with the Lee Sin comp. Is there a preference for either BT or Hodge, or is it kind of situational depending on the lobby?
I'm honestly going to have to owe you an answer there. I think that both are fine. Hodge is obviously more direct damage here. There's an angle we haven't really discussed, right? If the mid game here is just going to be that strong for Chuso, it's just going to be full winning out. He could look for the fast 9 into the Dragonmancer Aeoshin angle instead.
Yobidashi, one of the most common openers to go into that Siphon Shio-Yu carry comp later on. The Shimmer skill with some Jades mixed in with a Yone as a carry alongside the Wukong. The items are making it very clear what the direction will be. And we talked about it early game that now you can slam these items. You can itemize something like a Wukong or a Yone. And before it used to be only Olaf really as a melee carry. Now you have the dragons that can do it as well. Can Yone do this all by himself? It looks like it's going to be the case. Ezreal is good, but not good enough. Yone with these 3 items specifically, so strong.
And again, it's also worth noting here, Yobidashi went level 7 free flight to find a way to stabilize himself, right? That's the big thing to note here as well.
Oh, that's one way to do it.
That's Shio-Yu, right? And this is kind of like what he has to. And again, it wouldn't have been the end of the world had he lost that fight, but he is at 43 HP. And he hasn't like spiked a random Soraka yet. I did that on free 2 today. I feel very proud of myself. I just want to get that out of the way though. But BT's plus Titan's Resolve. And if you go in and look at the highest win rate item combinations right now on Shio-Yu, it's actually going to be double Titans plus Hand of Justice. But I would argue that this is like the traditional best in spots that we have BT, Titans, and Edge of Night.
Will this be a Gunblade slam, or do you feel that Yobidashi now feels strong enough to not have to slam items just yet?
The thing is that like, it comes at such a big cost, right? Because Gunblade, you know, if you had like a Nivea in the game still, right, sure, you can just put it over to the Nivea. But that's no longer an option. You don't have that AP setup. Is that what you really want here? You want like double AD-centric healing options, so like a BT, Hand of Justice. You know, like something like a BT Rage Bait for Siphon here will probably be beneficial, right? So again, a lot of it is going to come down to the outcome of this Wolves round here for sure.
Shio-Yu 1-star. We're still in stage 3, so still can definitely do it all by herself. And we're seeing here the punches coming through. The 1-2 punch gonna be enough to get the win here against Psycho. Another player that is suffering. 30 HP for Psycho, 29 HP for Tooth. Thankfully, all players survive Wolves. It is something that we've seen happen in the past, that some players just have such a doomed game they end up losing before even getting to stage 4. Very, very rare in this case, though. But dangerous spot to be in for Tooth. 29 HP, not the greatest place to be. And this board, it's a Whispers angle. The items are a bit weird. Archangels and Warmogs on Vlad currently. What do you make of this position, Weeda?
I mean, this is it's one of those weird spots when you're playing AP often, where like if you don't have the strong setup for it, you're kind of going to end up stuck in nowhere land. Does get a boon in terms of potential Siphon itemization, but it doesn't feel like you wanted to see that double bow really, right? Like this is a weird setup, and it kind of comes from the position you end up being in when you are down at like these, like we have these 4 component openers where you don't really have a lot to play with. But do find some upgrades, and I'm honestly not fully sure where this game is going to go. A lot of this is going to depend on like the willingness of Tooth to pivot out. And I'm unsure like where he will go from this position entirely.
Yeah, the augments are still very open with Sunfire Board and Exiles. The direction is kind of split between AD and AP even now as well, with the Astral Deluxe online 2-start as well. Maybe the items were hoping to be more AP items, but in the end ended up being slanting a bit more towards AD from this last PvE round. So a little bit dizzy. I think still has to find maybe that clear direction. Might be a level 8 on 4-2, maybe just 4-5, but at 29 HP, you have to do something quick. And this is going to be even lower now for Tooth, 14 HP.
This is one of those games where you're just trying to figure out like how do you not go 8th, right? And again, this is something that we don't really talk a lot about, but the best tournament players, they know how to turn an 8th into a 6th, because those 2 points could be what makes the difference between you making a card of a day, right? And these are the type of games that you need to look into, figuring out like what could I have done differently. We see a tie, that is very rare, and it also ends Magaki's streak, right? So that is a Psycho has already used his role here, so I assume there's going to be First Aid Kit in combination with that Filter Hunt. Assassin Heart also does open up some 4 Sin angles, I suppose.
Yeah, it definitely can work with Filter Hunt, can work with Swain as well. He is playing Darkflight on 7 Darkflight right now. Assassin Heart is a viable option, but yeah, I think First Aid Kit makes a little bit more sense. We're rolling on 7 here, so Econ has basically gone all the way down, hoping for a Swain 2-star, can build a redemption on the Swain if he chooses to. Finds 2 more Rengars. That is going to be great to get the upgrade. But still, Swain 2 would really be the stabilization point that Psycho is looking for.
I mean, also worth noting, right, First Aid Kit also helps with Swain's ability, right? That's a pretty big one. Talking about big ones, Potable, Sayatsu, Yobidashi, Shio-Yu 2, right? So people are kind of spiking now around the 4-2 mark. They could have been talking about the traditional level 8 on 4-2 angles here. Speaking of Kevin Parker,
these augments.
Level 8, but look at his gold.
His gold, his augments, his board, his HP total, his win streak, everything is going in Kevin Parker's favor right now. He still has that Kaisa as the star of the show, but I'm guessing that Kaisa will become a Psalm very, very soon. Maybe the only thing he's missing right now is going to be the Morelos, which ideally you want to have built on the Psalm if that transition happens.
Yeah, and the big thing to note, right, a lot of reason why people sometimes will struggle when they are playing Lagoon is that they are forcing themselves to roll on 7 due to their early game, right? And I'm not saying look at this game from Kevin. Like, he's a great streamer, that you should definitely go back and watch it, it's not that. But, like, this is a ridiculously high roll opener for sure. But Lagoon comps really tend to elevate themselves when you are rolling on level 8 instead, because you need to hit those Nihilus, you need to hit the Soam, and those are incredibly hard. It's also hard to fit everything on level 7.
And Zyko, another loss there. 8 loss streak is not where you want to be in this game. 16 HP for him, 5 HP for 2, finds the Seraphine 2-star, but I don't know if this board is going to be enough. I mean, we have the ASOL online now as well, but is this really the board that allows you to survive one more round? 6 loss streak for him as well.
The thing is that, like, if this is the angle you want to approach, right, there's no reason for you to start griefing your gold. I think that's the big thing to note here as well. Okay, Chuso has picked up and put in a Soam, it seems, to his Dragonmancer setup here. And it's kind of an interesting one, right? Like, again, trying to find those interesting angles in the mid game and trying to really min-max what you're actually doing. And that's what I was talking about going into this game at the analyst desk. If you do see two going out at 4-3, that is definitely an ouch, and I've been there a couple of times myself, I'm not gonna lie. It happens to the best of us. Meanwhile, Sippy is just living life, it seems.
Living life, but Rengar and Swain are trying their best to not allow him to do so, and that's going to be the case here. Spotty takes another hit there, has the Pandora's Bench, as you mentioned, though, has a chance to find more of those Zippies and try and hit that Zippy 3 possibly in this game as well. Pantheon with a Chain Vest, definitely going to be an interesting option for anyone going into, well, yeah, right away. Yobi Dachi is going to take it. He was a Shio player, so I'm guessing he is going to go into that generic build with Whispers and Jade, the combination of the two recently buffed dragons that are pulling their weight for sure in this current patch, Shio and the Siphon.
It's also interesting, I do realize that they don't have like any Jade-centric augments right now, like there's no Jade emblem and stuff like that, but with now the fact that it's 5 Jade rather than that 6 Jade, it's so easy for you, if you have an emblem, to just fit in the 5 Jade on the board, right? Just get those double stashes, be a lot more flexible with your positioning as well. And here it comes. It's going to be a big roll. I'm going to be trying to fast 9 it here from Chu. So he's 50 HP, so what probably needs to find a couple of upgrades if I can like safely go to level 9.
And we were wrong. I mean, usually we tend to see the Lee Sin being the carry with the Dragonmancer's path, but in this case, going more into Lagoon, Dragonmancer is going to be just a side thing for now. And I guess this is what the game was telling him. Hey, we're not giving you Lee Sins. Try and figure out what to do with this board, and this is the answer that he's come up with. And I like this. I like players that are able to adapt to what they're being given and find a route to still stay healthy and still stay strong.
Another thing see here, Petabol has gone for the future side augment as his final augment. Recently reduced down to silver alongside Pandora's Bench, right? Pandora's Bench probably the more quote-unquote fun augment, whereas the more direct fight impacting augment here is going to be future side. And the thing that also, it came along with the change to what we've known as like toggle scouting, where you can like scout boards without your little legend showing up. Now it shows up instantly instead. So you're always aware when the player is scouting it again. So Padabolo has that side too, is still level 7, however, has the Shyvana being prepared on the bench as well. So once that he is able to go level 8 and can get that onto the board, it's going to be a massive spike for him.
And Padabol is the exact player that I am not. He picked the 2 try-hard augments that you have to actually put more thought into the game about preparation to start things off, and then future sight. I avoid them just to not have to think more. TFT is already a complex game for my small brain, and I don't need that extra stuff going on. So Padabol is a brave man. Obviously, the tournament setting, I think you want to do everything you can to get any small advantage to try and get a top 4 here, get a win maybe even as well.
Yeah, we do see here that he is going to be facing up against Yobi Dashi, this player we've seen has an incredibly strong board here, with that double healing augment as well, which is one of the best ways to pair these big melee dragons, right? Thrill the Hunt, fantastic. Second Wind, fantastic. We do see here the Siphon almost healing back to full, right? Just due to the nature of Second Wind. The Desire does. There's a Giant Slayer, but the entire front line is down, so it should be a pretty close fight.
The 1-2 punch comes in, the Bloodthirster comes in. Shio, you able to stay alive, taking down the Twitch. Twitch is strong, but not quite strong enough. And even with that Zephyr coming in, even with that Shio thrown up into the air for the start of the fight, Yobidashi proving that his win streak is not a fake win streak, is definitely a real win streak. He has hit a very strong board once he was able to get that upgrade on the Xiaoyu, and he's definitely a player that is, I think, locked in for top 4 at this point.
Yeah, and I want to ask something here. What is your thoughts on Chaos Dragon okay, he skips the guild emblem.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That is definitely interesting. Okay, he skips the fist as well. Okay, Spatula. I mean, he's looking for Shyvana items, right? I guess that's the big kicker here, but you could argue that the guild emblem would have been a Shyvana item. He's really not having any luck here. Ends up going with this outcome. So maybe he just feels like he really needs anti-heal.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that could also be the thing that's worth noting here. The transition is going to come through now, though. He's going to skip the Zippy, and it's going to go for 6 Rage Wind, 3 Swift Shot Angle. Finds the upgrade here as well. Another thing that's worth noting here, right, back in set 7, when we, first of all, like the guild Saya build kind of came to fruition, on the Chinese servers, there was this belief that if you had a Zephyr, like even on stage 2-1, and you had a Sejuani, you just slam the items because you weren't going to use those components for anything else. And Sejuani is such a flexible unit positioning-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And that has kind of carried over, right? You see here now, Patabol has that Zephyr on the Sejuani here.
The Shyvana comes in, the 6 Rage Wind comes in, playing one of the S-tier comps of old, has been forgotten a bit on this patch due to, well, Xiaoyu coming in and knocking on Zaya's door right away. Can be problematic for a carry like Zaya that is a little bit on the fragile side against things like Xiaoyu, against things like Zippy, for example. That's going to be the case here as well. Potable going to take a loss because the carry just was pretty much evaporated right as the fight started off. The Zephyr couldn't land onto the Xiaoyu. That's going to be... is it going to be a win here for Xiaoyu? I think, yeah, double Titans. I mean, all this extra armor and AD should be enough to get this 1-star Shyvana out of the way.
It depends on the state of... Never mind. It doesn't depend on the state of anything.
Wait, calculated. Come on. How can you doubt my 50-50 from 10 seconds earlier?
I don't know. Again, it's going to see like how Megaki has now been able to utilize that Cluttered Mind opener. Has that early Soraka alongside everything else here. Right now, down towards the bottom of the lobby. Psycho here. He is struggling a little bit, but has found that Swain too with an Eternal Winter alongside it, David.
Might be a little bit too late for that upgrade to come through, though. 1 HP is a dangerous spot to be in. Even if you feel strong, even if you are strong, a little bit of bad fight RNG or one bad matchup against kind of a counter comp could spell doom, could spell 7th place in this game 3 of GSC number 3. So dangerous spot to be in for both Spotty and Psycho. Spotty, a player that we thought had a very good early game, but still has fallen all the way down to 1 HP and currently 6th in the standings.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to find that CP3, right, which has kind of been his saving. That would have been his saving grace if you consider the way that he's chosen to go about this game, right, when it comes to the itemization choices here. Doesn't have like a Zaya, it's talking to Varus too. Like the surrounding cast around the city here has just not been strong enough here, and that is the unfortunate state of things. But this is a very important win for Psycho because it does guarantee that he is now going to be at least 6th in the lobby, right? So that's again we're talking about this before. Like figuring out how those games of Euros that are not going to be like a top 4, figure out how to maximize your placements from that, and he's kind of figured that out so far. Now,
might be the case of Potable was also, using that Zippy 2 throughout most of the mid to late game, making it a bit harder for Spotty to hit even when the Pandora's bench, and that would have been obviously the difference maker. Once you're able to hit that power spike with Zippy 3, everything is very different. But in that case, ends up losing out, getting a 7th. Psycho stays alive. Kevin Parker, though, has fallen a lot in the HP standings, has just hit 2 massive upgrades, though. Zoe 2, Nyla 2, Terra is online. Items on the bench has to start slamming very soon because the fight is about to go down, and it's against Yobidashi, a player who is still win streaking. Fully itemized Siphon and Xiaoyu, both 2 stars. A big clump, though, for Asol to try and hit, but Xiaoyu is trying to work her way into that backline, work her way into that Asol, and hopefully stay alive against this Nyla that's also fully itemized, also very strong, but maybe not quite strong enough. We'll see now if Xiaoyu is able to take the assassin down. It's going to be close, but Nyla's trying to jump all over the place, but in the end will be taking the loss there for Kevin Parker. A 3-loss streak for him. Very, very strong start, but now it's starting to fall down.
And Psycho keeps on winning here, right? So this could potentially end up in even being a 6th place for Kevin Parker, but he's transitioned into that 4 dragon board that we've been talking so much about, right? Like getting those strong frontline dragons on board. He's going to be running the Asol instead of the Aoshin, right? It was kind of a given just due to the fact that he had the blue buff and not the Spear of Shojin. Psycho now on to the 8 Darkflight angle here with the emblem. It's going to be a little bit more HP, but it doesn't really provide anything else than HP.
And if Juzo had gone for the fully Dragonmancer comp gone for the Lee Sin, there was a Dragonmancer emblem there to be able to go for that 8 Dragonmancer cap. Instead, kind of forgot about it after that first augment, went Lagoon instead, went for that Psalm carry. It has worked out. He is currently sitting 3rd in the HP standings, although it is quite close outside of Dibidashi, who I think is right now the clear leader in both HP and in board strength, with the win streak making that very clear. Everyone else is still pretty close. Zyko is 1 HP, but I think still also quite strong, and the rest are all in that 20 HP threshold. We're going to see now as this fight starts off. You never want to be facing Yobidashi in this spot. He just seems to be so strong. Thrill of the Hunt, Second Wind, great augments to benefit this comp as well. The Swain can stall out, but when there are so many damage carries, deleting your entire board so quickly, I'm not sure the Swain will survive too long. In this case, we're going to see it now being targeted by both the Siphon and the Shioyu. The healing comes in, sustain comes in. Is it going to be enough for the Chomp? The burst damage coming through from that Siphon as well. Shioyu still left alive. Siphon, one more Chomp might be the difference maker in this case. Swain, though, he's looking pretty strong. Archangel stacking as well, getting more and more of that AP, and Yoedashi's streak finally comes to an end. Not able to continue that, finally falls under that 40 HP threshold.
This could be despair for Kevin Parker, right? Like, he was saying, okay, cool, I'm good enough, I'm fine, as a tank on level 8 for a few rounds. Then all of a sudden, Psycho just turns up. He said, "No, what? I'm just not going to stop winning." But now the big spike coming through here for Kevin Parker is going to be that Aurelion Soul too. But I mean, is this Aesol going to be able to like launch the inner, like the soul of Hui, the magical god at Aurelion Soul in the mid lane?
Choose to hit the Yasuo too as well. Magarki has a Zephyr, but doesn't hit the Aesol, hits the Shioyu instead. The battle Shioyu is on either side of this board. A lot of players on Shioyu. Not surprised after the buffs that came in onto this dragon. The fight, again, looking pretty clump towards the middle. This is going to be great for Aesol's damage to come through, but has to try and pick off these main damage carries, the Siphon and the Shioyu. Siphon down, Shioyu might be next. Still many units left alive. The Zoe as well to provide utility and CC. And to answer your question, Weeda, Kevin Parker is looking very strong after these updates came through. Magarki taken down in 6th, despite having so many upgraded dragons, has to feel bad.
I mean, that again, like, he's got to feel scammed somehow, right? Like, he's like, okay, cool, this board should be a top 4, I'm guaranteed I'm safe, and Psycho has just kept winning on 1 HP all throughout the entirety of the stage, right? We were talking about how Psycho is never going to top 4 this, and then he just fully spikes out everything he can. Nice little item pickup here. I actually don't know if I would prefer like an actual frontline item instead here for the Itis, but it is going to be a little bit more protection for the Aurelion Soul, I suppose.
Kevin Parker did a great job of having that really strong early game, and that transition period where he started losing a lot of HP, but was managed to stabilize right in time at 3 HP, and now has one of those coveted, incredibly strong level 9 boards with the full dragon setup with the Aesol instead of the Aoshin. But I think still Aesol showing that he's pulling through, especially with these augments. Luden's Echo, Uplink, Silver augments, sure, but still very strong that allow Aesol to get highlighted even more.
Yeah, and I feel like Aesol has kind of been one of those carries that has kind of been slept on just because of the fact that Aoshin is a little bit more flashy, I guess. I suppose like it's been like the better carry for the most part, besides like the one patch where like Aesol was just kind of like a little bit too unhinged. We also see now Terra 2 is a massive spike, both for the damage aspects of it. Okay, end up shipping the Zoe out of the way here. Just want that Soraka HP gain in come through here now, but he's against Psycho. And now the question is, can this Aurelion Soul stay alive for long enough?
This is the real test of late game board strength when you're up against the full dragon board. Is 8 Darkflight going to be enough? Is this Swain going to be enough to survive and to win this fight out for Zyko once again? He's been 1 HP for so long. He's win streaking now, able to stay alive, but still so many dragons left alive. Aesol surviving against this Rengar, still doing his thing. I think Swain can't possibly take down every single one of these dragons, despite the setup here being fantastic for Zyko with his Darkflight comp. That will be it. Swain taken down, Psycho taken down, but as you mentioned, he was able to turn a 7th or a 6th into now a 5th, getting a few more points on the standings and hoping to get a little bit closer to trying to guarantee that spot in day 3.
And also look at the life totals here. Chuzo 5 HP, Kevin Parker 5 HP, Potted Bowl 2 HP. Meanwhile, Yobidashi just chilling at 34 here. And that is going to be what's really going to be the deciding thing here. And I kind of like the fact that Kevin Parker decided to go into the Soraka aspect instead. Because I think that the Soraka is going to give him more HP like total compared to like what he would have saved by having Zoe in the fights.
And because these fights are looking like they're stalling out quite a lot, most of these boards, which means that as long as fights go longer, you want to have that extra stall yourself, that extra healing, that extra HP. We'll see now in this fight, Potable can possibly be taken down here against Juso, both on very, very little HP. The Xayah still doing its thing. Xayah showing she can top 4 with the right setup, and that will be the case here as well. Juso takes a unique angle with that Dragonmancer crest first augment pickup, but still manages the top 4.
And Kevin Parker seems to be strongest in the lobby now, like with the spike off the Aurelion Soul 2 and the Territory coming through as well. It does seem like that's kind of has turned like the last lever that needs to be pulled here for Kevin Parker to kind of put himself into pole position.
Can Yobidashi do anything else to upgrade this board? I'm not sure with the current gold he has. Level 9 for all the players. They've all hit kind of their preferred boards coming into the late game.
Also, Yobidashi right now has a random emblem on the bench. He's kind of trying to roll into something that could be useful here. Mystic Emblem, for example, would be fantastic. But again, it's not something he can dictate even if he wanted to do it.
16 HP, stage 6 means that this might be the last fight for most of these players, depending who they pair up with. Huge Shroud comes in, delays the first cast on both Siphon and the Shioyu. Xayah so far away, so, uncontested in that corner, not damaged at all, can do her thing, can start building those Rage Blade stacks, can slowly start punching away at these massive dragons. The Giant Slayer as well to deal that extra bonus damage. The last Feather Pull is not coming in quite early enough. Potable taken down. Still manages the top 3 with that Xayah. And that's going to be another big win there for Kevin Parker.
Indeed. Is that enough for Soraka too for Kevin? I don't know. I guess he wants the frontline item here for... Oh, what does he? Oh, he does want the Soraka. And wait, okay, never mind. I am confused here.
Shard is a great pickup. Dragon's Claw as well, considering you are playing many different dragons, going to get that extra sustain as well from the item. And not surprised to see these two boards being the final ones. Yobidashi, remember Rito, stage 3, he had a Yone 1 as his carry. He was looking pretty doomed. He was like in 7th or 6th place in the HP standings, found that Shioyu, and since that moment was able to stabilize and become one of the strongest players in this lobby, able to build out this board. Benefiting from the combat augments we talked about is so important for this comp as well. And you're up against the Dragon board though. I mean, do you expect to win at this point? I think you maybe are happy with a second.
I mean, we'll see, right? Like, again, like the setup here for Kevin Parker is so strong. And again, like, look at that massive clump for the first one as well, ulti.
Not a great start. You're looking at your you're like, okay, spread out, guys. Move around. Move to the side, show you. But no, everyone clumps up. Acel is strong. He has the Archangel. Only going to become stronger as this fight goes longer and longer. And as we mentioned yesterday with skill score and 6 against this Dragon board, this is the board that's supposed to win. This is the board that should be the high cap board at level 9. You have the augments as well, the uplink and Luden's Echo, and that will be a massive win for Kevin Parker, a player that we had him in the T fight in tactics in day 1. I gave him the caster blessing there as well, the interview blessing rather, and he's able to take this game 3, able to get those 8 points in the standings to try and make it to day 3 of this tournament.